Good afternoon. I'm Meg Whalen. I am the Director of Communications and External Relations for the College of Arts and Architecture. Welcome to the Live Wire. Today we're going to talk about the upcoming spring dance concert, which opens Thursday evening, March 20th, and runs through Sunday afternoon. With me today I have two members of the dance faculty, Sybil Huskey and Gretchen Alterowitz. And they're going to talk to us about the program and what you might expect if you go to see the concert. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Let's start off and just talk a little bit about our dance department and the kind of work that the students do and the performance opportunities that they have.
Well, it's a BA program, Bachelor of Arts program, and the training is primarily ballet and modern as far as the technique, with some jazz and also some different forms of cultural dance forms, and then augmented by history, improvisation, choreography, anatomy, to make a full major. And most of our students come to us from private studio training or sometimes high school training in public schools. And I think they usually have a pretty big awakening when they come to our department, because most of them have not experienced the technical kind of work that we do, nor have they ever thought about the breadth of subject matter in dance. So they're usually very excited when they see that.
And tell me a little bit about the performance opportunities that we provide our students.
Well, for this particular concert, we hold an audition at the beginning of the semester, and many students come, many choreographers come, and we choose dancers to be in this concert. We have some other less formal opportunities for them to perform in student choreography as well as in choreography classes where they create their own work.
So in this particular performance, the dancers are all students, but the choreographers are all faculty.
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And we do 2 of those concerts a year, usually one in the fall and one in the spring.
Great. And people who come can expect a really wide variety of styles. And particularly on this concert, it looks like we really do touch on a lot of the different classical and contemporary styles of dance.
Yeah, I think in this concert, maybe more than some of our past ones, we have Karen Hubbard has arranged her vintage jazz movement material into a wonderful opening for the concert, and that's very unusual for us to have that form of dance. We have 2 classical ballet pieces, contemporary ballet, modern, and a text-based dance theater piece. So it's really a very, very wide range. I don't even remember having that wide a range in the recent past. So I think it's going to be an exciting concert for people to see.
So there's bound to be something that people will like, even
Absolutely.
if they have very specific things that they enjoy in dance. There'll be something for everyone in this program. We actually have some video from rehearsal. The students are not in costume yet in this video footage, but we do have a little bit of footage, and I would like for people to be able to see some of the rehearsal so that they get a taste of all of these different kinds of dance. So this is the opening, and this must be the vintage jazz.
This is the vintage
This is Karen Hubbard's piece.
Yes.
And who are these dancers?
This is a wide range of dancers and dance minors in our program. All different classes, I think, are represented, from freshmen up to seniors, I think.
And most of these students have, I would say, have very likely taken Karen's vintage jazz
Absolutely.
class. So they're very well skilled in these particular styles of these old, original jazz dances.
Right. Well, that certainly will get everybody's toes to tapping.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great music too.
Yeah, it is great music.
Yeah.
So then things will sort of move to a
Very different
very
style.
different style. I'm just
Yeah.
going to fast forward through some of this. And one of our faculty members, Delia Neal, works predominantly in ballet and has choreographed. She's actually got two things on the program. This first piece is set to Bartok's Romanian folk dances, but I believe it is Delia's own choreography. And
that's right.
so it looks like the students are not in point. They're not on point,
Right.
but it is still much of the classical ballet.
It is with this, you said Romanian folk dances, so with this inflection of more of a traditional folk dance or Romanian dance. So although it's classical ballet, often the national dances from different countries show up within the context of ballet. So I think you can really see that in this piece.
And most ballet dancers study character dance that sort of helps them understand those national forms that are also infused into the ballet. So I think this would be a good example of that. And I imagine some of these students probably had Missy Coyle's character class last year, I think.
Yeah.
So in character class they will study a little bit of Spanish style dance maybe, or a little bit of Russian or Romanian or whatever.
And all
Polish.
of those different things, because those are very much part of the sort of the classical ballet vocabulary,
Right.
In narrative ballets.
I know that at least the dancer in the center here, who is named Christina Hudgens, she is part of an interesting program that we have with North Carolina Dance Theater, a certificate program. Tell me a little bit about that and what opportunity that provides our students.
It was started about, I think Darlene Callahan and I started this program probably 18 years ago, something like that, probably that long ago, in the late 90s anyway, mid to late 90s. And it was really designed for our students who want to have more emphasis on ballet, to be able to not only take more classes a week, but to take classes alongside professional dancers and in that professional dance setting. So and after they've worked in that program for 2 years and they're getting ready to graduate with their undergraduate degree, they get a professional training certificate in dance from the North Carolina North Carolina Dance Theater, rather. And I think it's very helpful for dancers. Not only do they get to enhance their ballet training, but they also get to see if being a professional ballet dancer is really the life that they want. So it's very, very helpful, I think. It is by audition only, and the dancers do have to be very strong on point. So it's not a lot of our dancers are doing it, but I think they take at least 4 or 5 classes a week at North Carolina Dance Theater with the faculty there. So for many dancers, I think it's been the reason that they have come to UNC Charlotte to do that program. So
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah, it's been great, I think. And it's a nice relationship with the professional company. And I know when we first started it, we were so grateful that Jean-Pierre Bonfou was so enthusiastic about it, and that was very helpful. So
My understanding is that coming in the fall, we'll have quite a few dancers who will be pursuing that certificate, I think.
Wonderful.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Another ballet representation that we have on the program is from the classical tradition, Tchaikovsky, Petipa. Tchaikovsky, of course, the composer who did all of the big story ballets that are so popular, like the Nutcracker and the Sleeping Beauty and Swan Lake. And he worked very closely with this choreographer in Russia. And we have a segment from Swan Lake that Delia Neal also has staged using that 19th century choreography as the basis for this work. Gretchen, tell me a little bit about, or tell our listeners a little bit about what that classical ballet technique is like, and what are kind of the emphases that the dancer has to really think about and portray and
Well, classical ballet technique is very rigorous, like many other dance forms, but it has an emphasis on verticality, line, extension, so extension of the legs and the feet. There's I guess line is really the big thing about ballet. So although the dancers are grounded into the floor, they're always reaching away from the floor, in a sense, in classical ballet. So this particular piece is from Act 1 of Swan Lake. It's sort of a celebratory dance. It's often taken out of the full-length ballet and performed on its own, as we're doing here. A pas de trois means dance for three people. So there are two women and one man dancing together in this. And it's really a showcase for virtuosity, I would say. There's some partnering work, but mostly it's made up of solos, each dancer coming on, showing the intricacies of ballet technique, the difficulties of ballet technique.
And we have a little bit, this is film that was taken from the sidelines, from the wings of the stage in our Belk Theater in Robinson Hall. So you don't see them from the front, but let's look a little bit.
Yeah, so this is I think the beginning section, the first section, so all three dancers together, and then it'll at the end of this, each one will come on for a variation, a solo dance.
Some of those difficult things, like, is it Christina that does the on point,
on point.
little hopping on point,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everyone in the audience can just kind of go, oh my goodness.
You can
hard to
see
imagine
how hard it is.
Yes.
And at the
yes.
same time, you have to maintain this composure as if it isn't
And
hard
she
at all.
does. She just smiles and looks like it's absolutely nothing. And of course, there are many other very, very difficult things in this piece.
I think it's interesting because each variation sort of focuses on a different skill. So there are those little hops. There's another variation with much larger jumps. So you see sort of this diversity within the singular style.
And then you also, Gretchen, have created a contemporary ballet piece, and I will pull up some of that film. Tell us a little bit about the piece, the music that you've chosen, and kind of the idea of the work, and how you created, and how this particular style differs from the classical ballet style we just saw from 19th century.
Okay. For me, this piece is sort of a conversation with ballet. It very much uses ballet vocabulary and kind of asks questions about what is ballet, what is beauty within the context of ballet, how can ballet, how can the lines in ballet be extended beyond the classical into what we call contemporary ballet. I mean, contemporary ballet is rooted in classical ballet. Very often you can see the steps, you can see the placement of the body that's in a very upright manner, and then it will take things off balance. It will show perhaps the vertical line, and then it will take something into a side bend or a forward bend in a way that suggests a different form, suggests a connection with modern dance or contemporary dance in some way. So this dance, it's all women, it's 10 women, and in many ways it's very classical. They're divided into groups. There's a group of 6 who all have the same costume. There's a group of 3 who have the same costume. There's a soloist. Those are classical concepts. Symmetry and proportion are really evident. And so I was trying to think about ways that how within this very classical language can we make slight adjustments or ask different questions or take it in another direction.
Well, let's watch a little bit of it.
That's the soloist, Katie Allman, dancing right there. This is her solo in the middle of the dance.
I think it's also interesting that in your piece you have dancers of many different levels.
Absolutely.
That you've really, really worked this choreography very skillfully so that is not obvious. But of course, since we teach them, we know that
they're really doing a wonderful job. And I think they're all, I hope and think they're all getting this opportunity to sort of be a part of a group and see how a group on stage has power and has presence
and just the challenge of doing ballet vocabulary in performance is very different than doing it in class.
Absolutely.
I noticed that she rolls on the ground at one point.
Yeah, that's not a classical
That would
thing.
not be a classical thing, having her kind of earth.
And
that's the
these side
contemporary
bends,
ballet.
Right. And here, I mean, the ballet, even classical ballet, is getting more and more virtuosic. So we're seeing more turns, higher jumps, larger extensions all the time, even in the classical work. But I think one of the things that marks contemporary ballet is sort of off-balance positions or bending in different directions than the classical line, and obviously floor work.
Right.
And then I would say in classical ballets, women don't partner with each other. But in contemporary ballets, sometimes they do. It's more typical for men to partner with each other in contemporary ballets, but something that, as an interest for me personally, is looking at whether women can partner in ballet and still have it kind of fit within the ballet look or feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you've done some research on that.
Yeah.
And presented papers on that topic. And the music is very beautiful.
This is a Mozart piano concerto.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be a very typical choice for a ballet.
Right. And here we can see more of the dancers.
Yeah.
So in addition to these more abstract, I guess, pieces where the dances really are and the choreography really is part of, well, it is inspired by the dance language itself and not so much by character or story or things outside of the dance. We also have a couple of pieces that are connected to real people who have lived, who have stories and lives, and to literary concepts and things, which adds yet another dimension. So we have sort of vernacular language with the vintage jazz, and we have some cultural dancing with the Romanian folk dances, and then classical and contemporary ballet. And then we have two pieces that have this kind of extra content that forms the root of the work itself. Sybil, tell us about your piece, which will be the last piece on the program.
Right. Well, mine is a piece that comes basically from a short story by Dorothy Parker, who was the only original female member of the Algonquin group of literati in New York City right after World War I. She was really known for her reviews and sometimes her books and short stories and poems, but specifically her little acerbic wit and her witticisms. Well, this particular short story is called The Waltz, and I selected it for a lot of different reasons, but primarily because the waltz is a dance as well as the name of a short story. So the fact that I was able to capitalize on the waltzing movement to sort of form the movement structure of the piece was part of the draw. It's also a very interesting, sort of sad but poignant story, but it's told in a very funny way. The dancers actually speak the text live, and this was a great challenge for our dancers since only one of the four had ever done any kind of theatrical work. So they've done a fantastic job.
They really have. They're doing great.
Yeah, to learn all the lines and then to do them as well as they are. I will say thanks to Kelly Mizell Ryan, who I've had come in and do text coaching with them about 3 different times, which that has been really, really valuable for them. So that collaboration with somebody from theater has been really important. This piece was originally done as part of a dance theater collaboration, an original dance theater collaboration that was a full evening, and it was about the life of Dorothy Parker. So this was one of several different dance pieces in that work. Subsequent to that, I took this the piece, the Waltz, that will be on this concert, and 2 of the other dance pieces I did based on her poetry, and made a longer piece called the Parker Trilogy that involved all 3 of them, but did not have any of the other theatrical trappings. And this time now, so I guess I'm just keep pulling it down. Next time I'll just come out and we'll just do a little waltz, and that'll be it, you know. But this is just the waltz, but I think we've changed it up a little bit because the costumes, we actually went to vintage costumes because, of course, the time of this is sort of the
beautiful.
40s, and we've got vintage hairdos and vintage 40s makeup. So the only thing we don't have are the ankle-strapped high heels that the women would have probably worn, but those are very impractical for dancing. So it's a funny piece, actually. Funny. In an unexpected way, much as Dorothy's writing was. You know, you think she's going along in a certain way, and then she throws some zinger at you, you know, and so it's very amusing and fun. And there's a waltz from the 40s that just kind of plays all the time in the background. When the dancers are just dancing, it comes up to a fuller volume, and then when they're speaking, of course, it's pulled down to a lower volume so you can hear that text. Yeah.
And what was the context for the performances of the larger works? Were they done here, or were they done?
They were. This is when we were a department of dance and theater, and we had decided we wanted to try to do more collaborative work. And I'm not sure who got the idea of doing something about Dorothy Parker, but we all thought this was a great idea because most of us knew who Dorothy was. We had an undergraduate student who actually helped write that script, and a former theater faculty member who played the role of Dorothy Parker. And then I think several of the choreographers worked on different pieces that emanated from her poetry or short stories, or was just movement, vernacular movement of the time. And we did it on campus. We also did performances of it at Spirit Square.
Oh, that was great.
So yeah, it really was, and the title of it was supposedly the way Dorothy Parker answered her telephone, which is, "What fresh hell is this?" That was the name of the production.
So that gives you a little clue right
about
there
Dorothy
of what her personality was like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, I'm sorry we don't have any video of that, so people will just have to come and see it live.
Right.
On Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, or Sunday afternoon. We do have a little bit of video of the other piece on the program that has this kind of extra dance, as we would say, extra musical in the music world, meaning outside of the music. So outside of the dance, this concept that comes from outside of the dance, it comes from the choreographer's family, from her family history. Melissa Pijos, who is an adjunct faculty member in our department this semester, and she has created a piece called The Wives that is based on the life of her father, who was a football player with the Philadelphia Eagles, NFL football player, and had 4 different wives. And so she has taken that life story of his 4 wives and his, I guess, fame as a football player with Philadelphia, and created a work that not only has a theatrical element, but it also has a multimedia component to it. She uses film of her father, and it's shown, and people will see here on a piece of cloth held by a dancer, which is a really interesting kind of concept. So we'll show a little bit, and Gretchen, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what the experience of this is like.
So from what I understand, this too is a smaller portion taken out of a longer work. So this section of The Wives is part of a much larger work. So there are 4 dancers, each representing one of the 4 wives, and also I think each representing a different time period. But really, the period they'll be dressed in a way that articulates the period in which they were married to Melissa's father. And then they're distinguished in movement quality as well. Their personalities come out in the types of movement that each of them does. And so this is a modern dance vocabulary. So again, it will look different from the other works because of our diverse programming.
Yeah. And so do the dancers speak, or is the sound all recorded?
There's recorded text.
There's recorded text.
There are projections on the back, what's called the cyc, so the back wall surface. There's large projections there, and there are also these smaller projections on the cloak that each dancer passes around when it's her turn to be the soloist. She takes the cloak and does her dance.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are references. One thing I really enjoy about this dance is there are references. You can hear the wives speaking. Some of the text is Melissa's mother, and she refers to Melissa in the text. And it's just this really beautiful family connection, I think, that comes out through the dance.
Yeah. And is there music or just the...
There is music.
Yeah.
But I don't know
actually, I think I remember
what it
reading
is.
that it's by Arvo Pärt.
Oh, okay.
Which is
That's right.
generally very
Yes.
kind of sustained and
Mhm.
emotionally laden, but very slow
Right, I think
and
it's a piece
sustained
that's
music.
been used quite a lot. I know Sal Aiello, who was the former artistic director of North Carolina Dance Theater, did a piece to this Arvo Pärt piece
really?
called The Waiting Room. And there have been several others. Hans von Manen has a piece by it. So it's it's an interesting musical piece because it's really evocative. It usually has quite an emotional kind of feel to it, and it has a lot of repetition in it that's very powerful.
Yeah.
So it's been used by a lot of different choreographers, all to good end.
Yeah. All right, so where can people buy their tickets? Let's see.
We should also
the
tell
website.
people that it starts at 7:30. We still have people coming late, and then they
It's true.
miss. They
That's
will miss the
right.
vintage jazz
That's
piece.
right. You need to be there at
That's
7:30.
too bad. Yeah, you need to be in your seats at 7:30.
That's right. In your seats at 7:30.
Yeah.
Tickets can be purchased at the door,
Right.
and they also can be purchased between now and then at our box office in Robinson Hall, which is open from 11 to 3. And then also online, you can go to the College of Arts and Architecture website, and there it is, the Spring Dance Concert. And you can buy tickets right from our website as well. For UNC Charlotte faculty, staff, and alumni, it's just $9, $14 for general admission, and then all students just pay $6. So it certainly is an affordable ticket price.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us
It was a
and telling
pleasure.
us
Thanks for having us.
about the program. I look forward to seeing it. And thank you for joining us for the Live Wire. There'll be another live broadcast next week at the same time.